Most people misunderstand avoidant personalities. They think distance means a lack of love. They think silence means indifference. They think space means rejection. But sometimes the truth is very different. Sometimes the person who steps back is actually the person who feels too much. You see, human beings are driven by two powerful forces, the need for connection and the need for protection. And avoidant people, they crave love just like everyone else, but their instinct to protect themselves is stronger. So when an avoidant loves you, their behavior may not look like the fairy tales you've seen in movies. It looks different. It looks complicated. But if you pay attention, their actions tell a powerful story. Because love isn't always loud. Sometimes love whispers. Sometimes love hides behind walls built long ago. And when an avoidant begins to love you, certain things start to happen. First, they keep coming back, even after pulling away, even after needing space. They return. Why? Because your presence becomes something they cannot completely walk away from. Avoidant people only stay connected to those who matter deeply. If they didn't care, they would disappear completely. But when love exists, they circle back again and again. Another sign is small moments of vulnerability. Avoidants don't easily open their hearts. Their emotions feel dangerous to them. So when they share even a tiny piece of their inner world, a fear, a memory, a personal struggle, that moment is huge. To most people, it might seem small, but to them, it's like opening a door that has been locked for years. And they only unlock that door for someone they truly trust. You might also notice something else. They watch you quietly. They observe your actions, your consistency, your patience. Avoidants don't trust words easily. They trust patterns. They are asking themselves silently, is this person safe for my heart? And if you prove through time, patience, and authenticity that you are safe, their walls slowly begin to lower. Not all at once, but brick by brick. And here's the truth most people don't realize. Avoidants often love deeply, sometimes deeper than anyone else. Because when someone who fears emotional closeness finally allows themselves to care, that love is not casual, it's powerful. But here's the key lesson. If you love an avoidant person, your strength must come from understanding, not control. You cannot force someone to open up. Pressure creates more distance, but patience creates safety. And safety is the language their heart understands. The goal isn't to chase them. The goal is to become a person whose energy says, you are safe here. Because when an avoidant finally feels safe, something incredible happens. They begin to show love in their own unique ways. They check on you. They remember small details about your life. They support you quietly. They stand beside you during difficult moments. And one day you realize something powerful. The person who once struggled with closeness is choosing you, not out of obligation, but out of trust, out of growth, out of love. And that kind of love is not weak. It is earned. It is real. And it is one of the most powerful connections two human beings can share. Because the strongest relationships are not built on perfection. They are built on understanding. They are built on patience. And they are built on the courage to love someone not just for who they are, but for who they are becoming. Remember, this love is not always obvious. Sometimes it's hidden behind hesitation. Sometimes it's wrapped in silence. Sometimes it moves slowly. But when someone who fears closeness continues to move toward you, even if it's one small step at a time, that step means something. It means your presence matters. It means your connection matters. And sometimes it means they love you more than they know how to say. Avoidant people often carry a deep inner conflict that many people fail to understand. On the surface, they may appear distant, calm, or emotionally controlled, but beneath that exterior lies a powerful world of feelings they struggle to express. Their hesitation is not always about a lack of care. Rather, it comes from a long-developed instinct to protect themselves. For them, opening up emotionally can feel like stepping into dangerous territory. They may have learned earlier in life that vulnerability led to disappointment, rejection, or pain. Because of that experience, they build emotional walls that help them feel safe. To the outside world, it may seem like they are uninterested, but the truth is often the opposite. They simply do not know how to safely reveal what they feel inside. Many avoidant individuals have trained themselves to suppress emotions because they believe showing feelings will make them weak or exposed. When someone tries to get close to them emotionally, their mind quickly activates a protective response. Instead of leaning into connection, they may step back, change the subject, or create distance. This reaction is not always intentional. It is often automatic. Over time, they become experts at appearing independent and self-sufficient, convincing themselves that they do not need deep emotional attachment. Yet deep down, the desire for connection still exists. The difference is that their fear of vulnerability becomes stronger than their willingness to openly express love, affection, or emotional need. What makes this dynamic even more complex is that avoidant people often feel emotions very deeply. They may care intensely about someone, but the idea of revealing those emotions can feel overwhelming. In their mind, once they allow themselves to be vulnerable, they risk losing control of their emotional safety. So they choose silence or distance instead of expression. They might think about someone constantly, worry about them, or value their presence greatly, but they rarely communicate those feelings directly. This creates confusion for the people around them who may interpret their behavior as indifference, when in reality the avoidant person is quietly battling their own internal fears. Another reason avoidant individuals hide their feelings is because vulnerability requires trust, and trust is something they build very slowly. They observe people carefully before allowing them into their emotional world. They pay attention to consistency, actions, and patience. Words alone rarely convince them. Instead, they look for proof over time that someone will not misuse their vulnerability. This cautious approach can make relationships with avoidant individuals feel slow or uncertain. However, for them, emotional openness is not something given easily. It is something that must feel safe enough to release. Because of this fear of emotional exposure, avoidant people often rely on indirect ways to show care. They may help someone solve a problem, offer quiet support, or remain present during difficult moments without expressing their emotions verbally. Their love and concern might appear subtle, almost hidden between actions rather than spoken words. These quiet gestures often carry deep meaning, even though they are easy to overlook. For avoidant individuals, actions feel safer than emotional conversations because actions allow them to show care without fully exposing their vulnerable side. When someone begins to understand this pattern, the behavior of an avoidant person starts to make more sense. Their silence, hesitation, or need for space is not always rejection. It is often protection. The emotional walls they build are not meant to hurt others. They are meant to guard their own hearts. Inside those walls is a person who still longs for connection, understanding, and acceptance, but who must move slowly before allowing anyone to truly see the depth of their feelings. When an avoidant person creates distance, many people immediately assume the worst. It often feels like rejection, indifference, or a sign that the connection no longer matters. The silence can feel heavy, and the space between conversations may create doubts and confusion. But the truth is far more complex than it appears. For avoidant individuals, distance is often not a sign of a lack of care. Instead, it is a way of managing emotions that feel overwhelming to them. When feelings become intense, their natural instinct is not to move closer, but to step back so they can regain a sense of control over their emotional world. Avoidant personalities tend to value independence and emotional safety very strongly. When a relationship begins to deepen and emotions grow stronger, they may suddenly feel a sense of pressure they are not used to handling. Instead of embracing that intensity openly, their mind tells them to create space. This distance helps them process what they are feeling without feeling trapped or emotionally exposed. To someone on the outside, it may seem like they are losing interest, but internally they may actually be trying to understand the importance of the connection and what it means for them. Another important thing to understand is that avoidant people often process emotions privately. They are not the type of individuals who immediately talk through every feeling or share every thought. When something meaningful happens in a relationship, they may withdraw temporarily to reflect, analyze, and calm their inner anxieties. During that time, they might still think about the person constantly, replay conversations, and question their own reactions. Their distance becomes a quiet space where they try to sort through emotions that feel confusing or overwhelming. Distance can also be a protective mechanism developed from past experiences. If someone has been hurt, disappointed, or emotionally overwhelmed in previous relationships, they may have learned that stepping back is the safest response when feelings grow strong. Rather than risk getting hurt again, they subconsciously create space to protect their heart. This doesn't mean they don't value the person in their life. In many cases, the opposite is true. The more important the relationship becomes, the more carefully they guard themselves because they fear losing something that now matters deeply to them. At times, avoidant individuals also use distance to restore their sense of personal balance. Emotional closeness can sometimes make them feel like they are losing their independence or control over their own life. Creating space helps them reconnect with themselves and feel grounded again. Once they feel stable and secure within themselves, they may naturally return to the relationship with more clarity and calmness. This cycle of stepping away and returning can be confusing, but for them it is often part of how they maintain emotional stability. Understanding this pattern requires patience and perspective. When someone realizes that distance does not always equal a lack of care, the situation begins to look different. Behind the silence or the need for space may be someone who is quietly navigating their own fears, emotions, and uncertainties. Their way of handling love might not always look warm or expressive, but that doesn't mean the connection holds no meaning to them. Sometimes the space they create is simply the only way they know how to manage feelings that are stronger than they expected. At their core, avoidant individuals are not people who reject love. In fact, they often desire it deeply. Like everyone else, they long for connection, understanding, and the comfort of knowing someone truly cares about them. They may imagine meaningful relationships and the warmth that comes with emotional closeness. However, the difference lies in how their mind reacts when love begins to feel real. While their heart moves toward connection, another part of them immediately becomes cautious. That inner voice reminds them of past disappointments or emotional pain, and suddenly the beautiful idea of love begins to feel risky. This internal struggle creates a powerful tension between wanting closeness and fearing what closeness might bring. For many avoidant individuals, protecting their hearts has become a survival strategy developed over time. Perhaps they experienced situations in the past where vulnerability led to rejection, criticism, or emotional hurt. Those experiences can leave lasting impressions that shape how they approach relationships in the future. As a result, their mind learns to stay alert whenever emotions grow stronger. Instead of rushing toward love with excitement, they approach it carefully, almost like someone walking slowly across thin ice. Each step is cautious because they are constantly evaluating whether the connection feels safe enough to continue. This protective instinct often causes them to build emotional walls that others may struggle to understand. These walls are not designed to push people away completely, but they serve as a barrier that keeps their deepest feelings guarded. When someone tries to get closer, an avoidant person may suddenly seem distant, distracted, or emotionally unavailable. Yet behind that reaction is a mind trying to balance two powerful forces: the desire to experience love and the need to avoid emotional harm. Their hesitation is rarely about a lack of feeling. It is about managing the fear that comes with letting someone see their most vulnerable side. What makes this dynamic particularly complicated is that avoidants can feel emotions intensely while still appearing detached on the surface. They may think about someone often, care about their well-being, and feel genuine affection, but expressing those emotions openly can feel uncomfortable or even frightening. Instead of speaking about their feelings, they may choose subtle actions that demonstrate care in quieter ways. They might offer help, provide support during difficult moments, or remain present in someone's life without openly declaring how important that person truly is to them. Because their instinct to protect themselves is so strong, avoidance usually moves slowly when it comes to emotional intimacy. Trust is something they build carefully over time rather than giving it freely. They observe behavior, consistency, and patience before allowing their guard to lower even slightly. Every positive experience helps them feel a little safer, but the process is gradual. Their heart may want to open quickly, but their protective instincts remind them to take small steps instead of big leaps. This slow movement toward trust can sometimes be misunderstood by others who expect love to appear more quickly or more visibly. Inside this complex emotional landscape, avoidants are constantly navigating the balance between hope and caution. Part of them hopes that someone will be patient enough to understand their fears and stay long enough to prove that the connection is safe. At the same time, another part remains alert, ready to step back if things begin to feel overwhelming. This ongoing push and pull between longing for love and protecting their heart defines much of their experience in relationships, shaping how they connect with others and how they reveal the emotions they carry within. When an avoidant person takes space in a relationship, it can feel confusing and even painful for the other person involved. The silence, the distance, and the sudden need for solitude can make it seem as though the connection has lost its importance. But something interesting often happens with avoidant individuals. After stepping away for a while, they return. This pattern of creating space and then coming back is not random. In many cases, it reveals something deeper about their feelings. For someone who values emotional independence so strongly, choosing to reconnect after distance often means the relationship holds real significance in their life. Avoidant people usually do not maintain connections that feel meaningless to them. If they truly feel indifferent about someone, they tend to disappear completely rather than continue the cycle of distance and return. The fact that they come back suggests that the bond still occupies a place in their thoughts and emotions. During the time they spend away, they may be processing their feelings, calming their internal fears, or trying to understand the depth of what they are experiencing. That time apart becomes a way for them to regain emotional balance before they feel ready to engage again. For many avoidant individuals, emotions can feel overwhelming when they grow too strong. When a relationship begins to matter deeply, it can trigger anxiety about vulnerability, expectations, and potential heartbreak. Taking space allows them to step out of that emotional intensity and regain a sense of control. However, if the connection truly matters, the absence does not erase the feelings they have. Instead, those feelings often linger quietly in the background, reminding them of the person they stepped away from. Eventually, that reminder becomes strong enough that they feel drawn back toward the relationship again. The act of returning also shows that the connection continues to hold emotional weight in their mind. Even if they struggle to express their feelings openly, their actions can reveal what words often do not. Reaching out again, starting a conversation, or finding small ways to reconnect indicates that the relationship has not been forgotten. For avoidant personalities, this type of return is often a significant step because it requires them to move closer again after experiencing the discomfort that emotional closeness can bring. This cycle of distance and return can sometimes feel frustrating or confusing for the other person involved, yet it often reflects the internal battle happening inside the avoidant individual. Part of them seeks closeness, while another part fears the vulnerability that comes with it. When they return after taking space, it suggests that their desire for connection has begun to outweigh their instinct to withdraw. In a subtle way, their actions communicate that the relationship still matters enough for them to face their discomfort and step back into the connection. Over time, these repeated returns can reveal a deeper truth about how avoidant individuals navigate relationships. Each time they come back, they are choosing the connection again despite their natural tendency to retreat from emotional intensity. Their process may be slower and less straightforward than what many people expect, but the willingness to reconnect again and again often reflects the quiet importance the relationship holds within their life. For someone with an avoidant personality, vulnerability is not something that comes easily or naturally. These individuals often spend years learning how to protect their emotions by keeping their deepest thoughts and feelings hidden. Because of this, even the smallest moment of openness can carry enormous meaning. When an avoidant person shares something personal, expresses a genuine feeling, or reveals a private fear, it is rarely accidental. That moment represents a step beyond their comfort zone. It shows that they are slowly lowering the emotional barriers they have carefully built around themselves for protection. To many people, vulnerability might seem like a simple act, talking about emotions, sharing personal struggles, or admitting when something hurts. But for avoidant individuals, these moments require courage. Their mind constantly warns them about the risks of emotional exposure. They may worry that opening up will make them appear weak or give someone the power to hurt them. Because of this internal resistance, they tend to choose silence rather than sharing what they truly feel. So when they finally allow even a small glimpse into their inner world, it often means they are beginning to feel safe enough to trust the person they are speaking to. These moments of vulnerability are often subtle and easy to overlook. An avoidant person may not dramatically confess their emotions or express affection in grand gestures. Instead, their openness might appear in small comments or quiet conversations or brief glimpses of honesty. They might share a story from their past, admit that something made them anxious, or reveal a thought they usually keep to themselves. To an outside observer, these actions might appear ordinary. But within the emotional framework of an avoidant individual, these moments are significant steps toward connection. What makes these vulnerable moments so powerful is the level of trust required for them to happen. Avoidant individuals rarely reveal personal emotions unless they believe the other person will handle that information with care. They observe how someone reacts, whether they listen without judgment, and whether they respect boundaries. Each positive experience builds a small amount of confidence. Slowly, they begin to realize that expressing a feeling does not always lead to rejection or disappointment. That realization encourages them to open up a little more over time. Another important aspect of these moments is that they represent progress in emotional intimacy. For avoidant individuals, relationships often move at a slower pace when it comes to emotional closeness. Instead of opening up quickly, they reveal their inner thoughts gradually, almost like unlocking doors one at a time. Every small moment of vulnerability becomes another door opening, allowing the relationship to grow deeper. These steps might seem small, but together they create a path toward a more meaningful connection. Because of this gradual process, recognizing and valuing these moments can make a significant difference in a relationship with an avoidant person. When their vulnerability is met with understanding, patience, and kindness, it reinforces the sense that sharing emotions can be safe. Over time, those small moments begin to happen more often, slowly transforming the relationship into a space where trust and emotional honesty can continue to grow. Avoidant individuals are naturally cautious when it comes to trusting others. For them, words alone are often not enough to convey sincerity or commitment. They have learned through experience that people can say many things but act differently, and those inconsistencies can lead to disappointment or emotional pain. Because of this, avoidant personalities pay close attention to actions rather than promises. They notice patterns, behaviors, and repeated efforts far more than verbal assurances. In their mind, actions are tangible proof of intentions, while words are easily spoken and often forgotten. This focus on consistency comes from a deep need for emotional security. Avoidants have usually experienced situations where trust was broken, leaving them wary of relying on words alone. A heartfelt declaration or a promise to change may feel meaningless if it is not followed by repeated, observable actions. They look for reliability, predictability, and steady effort over time. It is not that they doubt the intentions of others automatically. Rather, they want evidence that trust can be sustained. Each consistent action becomes a small bridge toward proving that someone is dependable and safe for their heart. Because of this perspective, avoidant individuals often take longer to fully commit emotionally. They observe silently, assess patterns, and wait for behaviors to match words before they allow themselves to relax and feel secure. Even in situations where someone is clearly caring or loving, the avoidant person may remain hesitant until consistent effort proves that the relationship is genuine. This tendency can feel frustrating for people who expect immediate verbal affirmation, but it is simply how avoidants navigate the delicate balance between desire for connection and fear of vulnerability. Their observant nature also means that avoidant individuals are highly attuned to subtle actions. Small gestures, routines, or habits can carry enormous weight in their evaluation of trustworthiness. They notice if someone follows through on promises, if they show up in moments of need, or if they behave consistently even when it is inconvenient. These observations help them gauge whether a relationship is stable enough to allow deeper emotional closeness. Each consistent action builds confidence that their feelings will be met with respect, understanding, and reliability. This reliance on actions rather than words can sometimes be misinterpreted as coldness or detachment. Avoidants may not express love in words as freely as others, and their careful observation might appear distant or analytical. However, their focus on behaviors is actually a reflection of how seriously they take relationships. They are not looking for empty words, they are looking for proof that trust, care, and commitment are real. When someone demonstrates these qualities through consistent actions, it often has a much deeper impact on an avoidant than any verbal affirmation could. Ultimately, understanding this trait is essential for building a meaningful connection with an avoidant person. Patience, reliability, and consistent effort speak louder than grand declarations. By showing through actions that one is trustworthy and committed, avoidants gradually feel safe to lower their walls. Their attention to consistency is not a limitation of love, it is a roadmap for earning it. Every thoughtful gesture, repeated effort, and dependable act becomes a step closer to unlocking their heart and fostering a relationship built on genuine trust. For avoidant individuals, trust is not something that comes quickly or easily. Unlike some people who can open their hearts and reveal their emotions almost instantly, avoidants approach relationships with caution. They have learned often through past experiences that vulnerability can lead to disappointment, hurt, or betrayal. Because of this, they require a slow and steady process to feel safe. Each step in a relationship is carefully measured, and every action is observed to determine whether it is consistent with safety and respect. Trust for them is earned gradually, not given freely. Patience plays a critical role in this process. Avoidant individuals are highly sensitive to pressure or rushed intimacy. If someone tries to force closeness or demands emotional openness too quickly, it often triggers their instinct to pull back. They need the space to feel in control of their emotions and to ensure that revealing themselves will not result in harm. Patience allows them to observe patterns, evaluate intentions, and begin to believe that a relationship can be safe. It is through repeated calm and consistent presence that they slowly lower their defenses. Every moment of understanding without pressure is a step toward creating trust. Emotional safety is equally important in building trust with avoidants. They are constantly scanning the environment and interactions for signs of danger or potential rejection. A supportive tone, gentle listening, and non-judgmental responses send signals to their nervous system that it is safe to open up. When someone demonstrates that they can handle vulnerability without exploiting it or reacting negatively, the avoidant person begins to feel secure enough to share small pieces of their inner world. Emotional safety becomes the foundation upon which deeper connections are built, and it is far more powerful than any declaration of love or commitment. Trust for avoidance is also reinforced by consistency over time. One kind act or a single supportive conversation is rarely enough to convince them that a connection is genuine. They need to see repeated demonstrations of reliability and care. This might include someone showing up when it matters, remembering important details, or maintaining a steady attitude even during conflict. Each consistent act strengthens their sense of security, proving that the relationship is stable enough to navigate the vulnerabilities they carry. Trust grows not as a sudden event, but as a series of small, deliberate steps. The process of building trust with an avoidant is often subtle and incremental. It is in the quiet, everyday actions that they feel most reassured, moments when someone is patient with their hesitations, respects their need for space, and still shows consistent care. These acts are interpreted as proof that they can rely on the other person emotionally. As they notice these patterns over time, their walls begin to soften, and the emotional distance they initially maintained becomes less necessary. Each carefully observed action becomes evidence that opening up will not lead to harm. Ultimately, understanding that trust must be built slowly is essential for anyone who wants a meaningful relationship with an avoidant individual. Impatience or attempts to rush intimacy often backfire, while consistent patience, empathy, and reassurance create an environment where trust can flourish. Once avoidants feel emotionally safe, they are capable of forming profound, loyal, and enduring connections. Their caution is not a reflection of a lack of love, but of a deep awareness of the value and fragility of trust, making the bonds they form all the more meaningful. Avoidant individuals often express love in ways that can be easy to overlook. They are not usually the ones to shower someone with grand gestures, dramatic declarations, or constant verbal affirmations. Instead, their affection tends to manifest in quieter, subtler forms. For them, love is shown through actions rather than words. They believe that caring for someone means being reliable, present, and supportive in ways that feel tangible and consistent, even if they do not say, "I love you," loudly or frequently. Their love language is practical, steady, and often understated, but it carries a depth that is incredibly meaningful. One of the most common ways avoidant individuals show love is through quiet support during challenging times. They may not speak at length about their feelings or offer elaborate advice, but they will be there when it matters most. They notice struggles, offer practical help, and remain present even when things get tough. This presence is their way of saying, "I see you, I care about you, and I will stand by you." While it may not come with the drama or intensity that others might expect, it reflects a deliberate choice to be dependable and attentive, which to an avoidant person is the most authentic way to express love. Avoidants also often demonstrate love through acts of service or small gestures that show they are paying attention, remembering details about your life, helping you with tasks, or offering assistance without being asked are all ways they communicate care. These gestures might seem minor on the surface, but for someone with an avoidant personality, they are significant. Each action is a conscious decision to support someone they value while maintaining the emotional safety they need. In this way, love is communicated quietly but powerfully, speaking volumes without needing dramatic expression. Another key aspect of their love language is patience and respect for boundaries. Avoidant individuals often understand that emotional closeness can feel overwhelming both for themselves and for others. They show love by giving space when it's needed, listening without judgment, and respecting the other person's pace. This patience demonstrates a profound understanding that relationships are not about intensity or spectacle, but about creating a stable, safe environment where trust and connection can grow. Their quiet respect is an expression of love that runs deeper than many realize. Avoidants also show love through reliability and consistency over time. They may not promise the moon or engage in grand romantic displays, but they show up when it matters, keep their commitments, and remain steady in their support. This steadfastness is a subtle but powerful form of love because it communicates trustworthiness and devotion without needing constant verbal reassurance. For an avoidant person, demonstrating love in this way is far more meaningful than fleeting dramatic gestures, which may feel empty or performative to them. Ultimately, understanding the love language of an avoidant requires a shift in perspective. Their expressions of affection may not always be loud, flashy, or immediately recognizable, but they are genuine and enduring. Quiet support, thoughtful gestures, patience, and consistent presence are the ways they say without words, I care about you, I value you, and I am here for you. Once this is recognized, it becomes clear that their love, though understated, is profoundly authentic and often deeper than the more overt displays that many people expect. For an avoidant individual, emotional closeness can often feel intense, overwhelming, or even threatening. Their instinct is to maintain a sense of control over their feelings and personal space. When someone pressures them for emotional intimacy or chases them for reassurance, it can trigger an automatic reaction to retreat. The more they feel cornered or pressured, the stronger their need becomes to pull back and regain a sense of safety. This is not a reflection of a lack of care or interest, but rather their natural coping mechanism for protecting their heart from perceived emotional danger. Avoidants are wired to associate too much closeness with potential loss of independence or vulnerability. When chasing or pressure enters the dynamic, it can feel like their autonomy is being threatened. They begin to feel anxious, trapped, or controlled, even if the intentions of the other person are loving or well-meaning. This creates an internal conflict. Part of them wants connection, but another part fears being emotionally overwhelmed. As a result, the more someone insists or pursues, the more the avoidant person feels the need to create distance to regain equilibrium. Pressure often signals to an avoidant individual that the emotional environment is unsafe. They are highly sensitive to cues that indicate demands or expectations may exceed their capacity to handle intimacy. Even subtle forms of pressure like frequent calls, persistent questions about feelings, or attempts to force conversations about closeness can be interpreted as emotional intensity that feels threatening. Their natural response is not to engage or confront, but to withdraw. This withdrawal is a protective measure designed to keep their heart safe and maintain a sense of emotional control. Chasing an avoidant can also inadvertently reinforce their fears. When someone pursues them relentlessly, the avoidant person may start to associate emotional closeness with stress, discomfort, or loss of control. This can create a pattern where distance becomes the default response whenever emotional intensity rises. In this cycle, their instinct is to avoid, and the pursuit only strengthens the walls they have carefully built over time. Ironically, what the other person interprets as a lack of love or indifference is often the avoidant protecting the connection by safeguarding their emotional capacity. It's important to understand that avoidants respond best to patience and gentle presence. Rather than chasing or pressuring, giving them space while maintaining consistency and reliability communicates safety. They need to feel that the relationship is secure enough to allow vulnerability at their own pace. When they perceive that they are being chased or coerced, it triggers resistance. But when they feel supported without being pressured, they are more likely to gradually lower their guard and engage emotionally on their own terms. Ultimately, chasing or applying pressure can push an avoidant further away because it conflicts with their need for autonomy and emotional safety. Relationships with avoidants require a delicate balance between intimacy and space. The key is to respect their boundaries, demonstrate consistent care, and allow emotional closeness to develop naturally rather than forcing it. When approached with patience and understanding, avoidants are capable of profound love and connection, but only when they feel it is safe enough to engage fully without pressure. For avoidant individuals, emotional walls are not built overnight. They are the result of years of learning to protect themselves from hurt. Because of this, rushing intimacy or expecting immediate openness can feel threatening. What they need most is patience, a calm presence that allows them to move at their own pace. When someone approaches them with patience, it signals that they are not being judged or pressured. This gentle consistency begins to break down the barriers they have carefully constructed, creating a safe space where vulnerability no longer feels dangerous. Understanding plays an equally critical role in connecting with an avoidant person. Their behavior can often seem confusing or contradictory, pulling away one moment, seeking connection the next. Without insight into why they act this way, it's easy to misinterpret these patterns as disinterest or rejection. But with empathy and understanding, it becomes clear that these actions are rooted in fear and self-protection rather than a lack of care. By responding with patience and understanding, you communicate that their emotional rhythms are respected, and that makes them more willing to gradually open up. Creating this safe environment requires consistency over time. Avoidants are highly observant and look for proof that someone's care is reliable. Occasional patience or sporadic understanding is not enough to convince them that the relationship is safe. They need repeated experiences of calm, supportive behavior to trust that they will not be judged, pushed, or abandoned. Each moment of consistent patience and understanding acts like a brick, slowly building a foundation of emotional safety that allows them to explore vulnerability without fear. In this environment, avoidants begin to feel that their emotions are honored rather than threatened. They notice that they can share a thought, a feeling, or a small piece of their inner world without triggering negative reactions. That recognition is powerful because it challenges their long-held belief that emotional openness is dangerous. Over time, they begin to associate closeness with safety rather than anxiety, which fundamentally changes how they engage in relationships. What once felt risky now begins to feel possible. Patience also allows avoidants to regulate their own emotions without feeling pressure. When someone understands that they may need space, time, or quiet reflection, it reduces the intensity of their internal conflict. They no longer feel forced to choose between withdrawing entirely or exposing themselves prematurely. Instead, they can gradually test the waters of emotional intimacy, knowing that the other person is willing to wait and support them without judgment. This sense of emotional freedom is essential for them to open up authentically. Ultimately, when patience and understanding are present, avoidant individuals can experience relationships in a transformative way. The safe environment created by these qualities encourages them to lower their defenses, share more of themselves, and build trust at a pace that feels natural. It allows their love to emerge in genuine, consistent ways, demonstrating that vulnerability is not a risk to be feared, but a bridge to deeper connection. Over time, this patience and understanding become the catalyst for a bond that is both strong and enduring. Avoidant individuals often carry a depth of emotion that few people realize. While they may appear calm, detached, or self-contained on the surface, inside they experience feelings intensely. Joy, love, fear, and sadness can run deep, creating a rich internal world that they rarely reveal. This intensity, however, is paired with a strong instinct to protect themselves. Expressing emotions openly feels risky because it exposes them to potential hurt or rejection. As a result, their feelings are often hidden, carefully guarded behind layers of caution and self-control. The struggle to express emotions openly often stems from past experiences. Many avoidant individuals have learned that vulnerability can lead to disappointment or pain. They may have been hurt in previous relationships, criticized for showing their feelings, or abandoned when they were emotionally open. These experiences create a pattern in which emotional self-protection becomes a survival mechanism. Over time, this makes it difficult for them to share what they feel, even with people they care about deeply. Their heart longs for connection, but fear often keeps it locked behind walls. Even though they may not express emotions verbally, avoidants feel them vividly. They may replay conversations in their minds, analyze interactions, and silently wrestle with their feelings. Their love, concern, and care are often experienced internally with great intensity. Yet, translating these inner emotions into words or actions feels challenging. This disconnect can be confusing to those around them who might interpret their quietness as indifference. In reality, the avoidance emotional world is rich and complex, and the silence is often a protective shield rather than a lack of feeling. Avoidants also struggle with emotional expression because they fear losing control. Sharing feelings openly can make them feel vulnerable, exposed, and unbalanced. They may worry that others will judge them, reject them, or exploit their emotions. This fear causes hesitation and restraint, even in relationships where love and trust exist. As a result, they often show affection or care indirectly, through quiet support, thoughtful gestures, or consistent actions, rather than overt displays of emotion. These subtler forms of expression are their way of navigating love while maintaining emotional safety. Another reason they struggle to express emotions openly is the conflict between independence and intimacy. Avoidant individuals value their autonomy highly, and emotional closeness can feel like a threat to their sense of self. When feelings grow strong, they may pull back to regain balance. This push and pull dynamic is often misinterpreted as detachment or lack of commitment. In truth, it reflects the tension between their deep emotional experience and the protective instincts that govern how they navigate relationships. Their love is there, but it is expressed cautiously and deliberately. Despite these challenges, when avoidants feel safe and supported, their emotions begin to emerge gradually. Over time, with patience, understanding, and consistency from their partner, they can start to lower their guard. Small moments of honesty, subtle expressions of affection, and acts of care slowly reveal the depth of their emotional world. While they may never be as outwardly expressive as others, their love and emotions are profound and genuine, showing that behind the calm exterior lies a heart capable of extraordinary depth and connection. For avoidant individuals, emotional walls are not built in a day, and neither are they torn down quickly. These walls have often been reinforced over years as a way to protect themselves from hurt, rejection, or disappointment. Because of this, any attempt to breach them must happen slowly and carefully. When an avoidant person begins to lower their walls, it is rarely dramatic or sudden. Instead, it is a subtle, gradual process that unfolds over time, marked by small shifts in behavior, increasing openness, and cautious steps toward emotional closeness. The process of lowering these walls often begins with tiny moments of trust. An avoidant might share a small thought, reveal a minor fear, or show a fleeting piece of vulnerability that they normally keep hidden. These moments may seem insignificant to an outsider, but for them, it represents a calculated risk, a decision that the other person is safe enough to handle even a small piece of their inner world. Each moment acts as a test, helping them gauge whether the relationship can sustain deeper connection without threatening their emotional safety. Consistency plays a critical role in this gradual opening. Avoidants are highly observant and pay close attention to patterns of behavior. They notice when someone shows patience, reliability, and understanding over time. Each consistent action reinforces the idea that it is safe to let their guard down, unlike those who might be swayed by words alone. Avoidants need repeated evidence that their vulnerability will be respected and that emotional closeness will not be met with judgment, rejection, or pressure. Over time, these small reassurances accumulate, creating a sense of security that allows the walls to slowly crumble. Another important factor is the space to regulate their own emotions. Avoidants are sensitive to emotional intensity and can feel overwhelmed if closeness happens too quickly. By gradually lowering their walls, they can maintain control over their feelings while slowly experimenting with intimacy. This pacing allows them to reconcile their desire for connection with their instinct to protect themselves. Each step is deliberate, often imperceptible, but every choice to share or engage more deeply signals progress toward genuine emotional openness. The lowering of walls is also influenced by the perception of safety within the relationship. When avoidants feel understood, respected, and valued without pressure, they begin to test the limits of emotional closeness. This might involve initiating small acts of care, showing affection subtly, or expressing thoughts that they previously would have withheld. Each act represents a brick removed from the barrier they've constructed, and over time, these small gestures accumulate into a significant shift. The gradual nature of this process ensures that emotional intimacy grows in a way that feels manageable and secure for them. Ultimately, this slow, careful lowering of walls reveals the depth of the avoidant individual's capacity for love and trust. While it may seem understated or cautious, each step is a meaningful choice to allow someone into their inner world. With patience, consistency, and understanding from the other person, the avoidant can build a bridge from guarded independence to authentic connection. The journey is gradual, but once the walls begin to come down, the intimacy and trust that emerge are profoundly real and enduring. For avoidant individuals, trust is not built overnight, and words alone rarely convince them of someone's sincerity. What matters most to them are consistent actions and reliable behavior over time. They have learned from past experiences that people can say one thing and do another, and these inconsistencies can be emotionally damaging. Because of this, avoidants pay close attention to patterns rather than promises. Every repeated act of care, attention, and understanding becomes evidence that the other person can be trusted, forming the foundation for a deeper emotional connection. Consistency communicates stability, which is essential for avoidance. They need to know that the person they are connecting with can be counted on, not just in moments of comfort, but also during challenges. This reliability shows them that they can rely on someone without fear of disappointment or sudden withdrawal. When actions match words over time, it reassures them that the relationship is safe enough to invest emotionally. For an avoidant person, consistent behavior is the clearest signal that emotional closeness will not come at the cost of personal security. Reliability is equally crucial because avoidants are highly observant of how others respond to their needs. They notice if someone shows up when it matters, keeps promises, or remembers the small details that demonstrate care. Each reliable act reinforces the sense that they can open up without risking hurt. Avoidants often approach relationships cautiously, and repeated evidence of dependability allows them to slowly feel safe enough to trust someone with more personal and vulnerable aspects of themselves. Without this reliability, walls remain firmly in place. Consistency also provides avoidance with a sense of predictability. Emotional uncertainty can be uncomfortable and anxiety-inducing for them, often triggering withdrawal when they see patterns of steady, reliable behavior. It reduces the emotional volatility they anticipate in relationships. They can begin to relax, knowing that their efforts to connect will not be met with unpredictability or sudden disappointment. This predictability allows them to explore emotional intimacy at their own pace, gradually lowering their defenses in a safe environment. Another powerful aspect of consistency is that it demonstrates respect for their emotional boundaries. Avoidants often need space and time to process their feelings, and consistent support without pressure shows that those boundaries are understood and honored. This type of dependable behavior communicates to them that their vulnerability will be handled with care, reinforcing the foundation of trust. They do not need grand gestures or dramatic declarations. Repeated, steady actions often speak louder than words ever could. Ultimately, consistency and reliability form the cornerstone of building trust with an avoidant person. It is through these repeated, dependable actions that they learn it is safe to open their hearts and allow connection. Each moment of reliability strengthens the bond and helps dismantle the walls built to protect them. Over time, patience combined with steadfast consistency nurtures an environment where avoidants can feel secure enough to engage fully, revealing the depth of their love and emotional capacity in ways that are genuine, enduring, and profoundly meaningful. For avoidant individuals, choosing someone to invest in emotion is never a casual decision. Their natural instinct is to protect themselves from emotional pain, so they move slowly and cautiously when it comes to relationships. Every choice to stay close, engage deeply, or open their heart is carefully considered. They analyze patterns of behavior, consistency, and emotional safety before allowing themselves to commit. When an avoidant finally chooses someone, it is not impulsive or fleeting. It is a deliberate and meaningful decision made after much internal reflection. This thoughtful approach comes from their deep need to feel secure. Avoidants have often experienced situations where trust was broken or vulnerability was met with disappointment. As a result, they weigh relationships with extreme care, examining not just words but actions, intentions, and long-term reliability. They observe how the person responds in moments of difficulty, how consistent their behavior is, and whether their energy creates a safe space. Only after evaluating these factors do they allow themselves to invest emotionally, because to them, love without security feels far too risky. Choosing someone is also a reflection of the avoidant's internal growth. Over time, as they experience consistent care, patience, and understanding, they begin to see that opening up does not always lead to harm. They recognize patterns that signal trustworthiness and safety. Once they feel confident that their heart will not be exploited, they make the conscious choice to lower their defenses and engage more fully. This decision is not made lightly. It is the culmination of careful observation, reflection, and emotional calculation. An avoidance choice carries profound meaning because it represents a commitment to allow vulnerability. To someone unfamiliar with their inner world, it may seem understated or cautious. Yet beneath the surface, this decision reflects courage. By choosing to stay and engage, avoidants are actively deciding to risk emotional exposure, which is significant given how deeply they feel and how strong their protective instincts are. Their choice is a testament to the importance of the person they are committing to and the value they see in the connection. Every action that follows their choice, whether subtle gestures of care, moments of attention, or quiet support, becomes part of a broader declaration of love and trust. Avoidants may not express their feelings dramatically, but the very act of consistently choosing someone despite the fear of vulnerability is a powerful statement. Each day that they remain present and engaged reinforces the meaning behind their decision, showing that it is thoughtful, intentional, and deeply rooted in their sense of emotional safety. Ultimately, when an avoidant person chooses someone, it signifies more than affection. It is a deliberate alignment of trust, care, and commitment. Their decision reflects a careful balance between desire for connection and the instinct to protect themselves, making the bond profoundly meaningful. Understanding the depth and deliberateness of this choice allows us to appreciate the seriousness and authenticity of the connection. For an avoidant, choosing someone is not just a moment. It is a journey, a process, and a declaration that their heart has found a place it believes is safe enough to stay. The strongest relationships are rarely built on passion alone or on fleeting moments of excitement. They are built on the foundation of understanding, truly seeing and accepting each other as human beings with flaws, fears, and unique ways of experiencing the world. Understanding means looking beyond behavior that may seem confusing or distant and recognizing the intentions, emotions, and experiences driving it. In relationships with avoidant individuals, this understanding is crucial. It allows us to appreciate why they may need space, why they guard their emotions, and why their love may be expressed subtly rather than overtly. Through understanding, empathy replaces frustration, and connection begins to grow. Patience is another pillar of strong relationships. Emotional intimacy, trust, and vulnerability do not happen overnight, especially when one partner has learned to protect their heart carefully. Avoidant individuals often require time to feel safe, to test the boundaries of trust, and to navigate their own internal fears. Patience allows a relationship to progress at a pace that feels natural rather than forced. When a partner responds with calm and steadiness, it reduces the anxiety that avoidance can create, enabling the avoidant individual to slowly open up without fear of judgment or pressure. Emotional safety forms the third, indispensable component. Strong relationships create spaces where both individuals feel secure enough to express themselves honestly without fearing rejection, criticism, or abandonment. For avoidance, emotional safety signals that vulnerability is not dangerous. It is nurtured through consistent actions, empathy, and reliability over time. When partners provide this safe environment, avoidants are able to lower their defenses gradually and engage more fully in love and connection. Emotional safety allows both people to show their true selves, forging bonds that are deep, resilient, and authentic. These three elements, understanding, patience, and emotional safety, work together in a delicate balance. Understanding creates clarity about the partner's actions and intentions, reducing misunderstandings and frustration. Patience gives time for walls to slowly come down and for trust to be built organically. Emotional safety transforms the relationship into a secure haven where vulnerability is not a threat but a bridge to intimacy. When all three are present, Love is not forced or superficial, it grows steadily and meaningfully. The beauty of relationships built this way is that they are sustainable. Temporary excitement fades and words alone can be forgotten, but patterns of consistent patience, deep understanding, and emotional safety endure. They form a foundation strong enough to weather conflicts, challenges, and the inevitable ups and downs of life. Avoidants, who may struggle to express love openly, respond to this stability with reciprocal care, trust, and connection. Over time, what started as guarded engagement transforms into profound intimacy and mutual respect. Ultimately, the strongest relationships are not measured by dramatic gestures, constant declarations, or intensity alone. They are measured by the quiet, steady ways that two people show up for each other consistently, by the patience that allows growth, and by the trust and security that make vulnerability possible. When understanding, patience, and emotional safety come together, love is not only sustained but deepened. It becomes a connection that is both resilient and transformative, proving that the most enduring bonds are built on care, empathy, and mutual respect rather than mere passion or convenience. In conclusion, relationships with avoidant individuals thrive when approached with patience, understanding, and consistent emotional safety. Their hearts may be guarded, their emotions deeply felt but often unspoken, and their love expressed subtly through actions rather than words. By respecting their need for space, valuing their small moments of trust, and showing unwavering reliability, a meaningful connection can grow over time. The journey may be gradual, but the love and trust that emerge are profound, authentic, and enduring, proving that the strongest bonds are built not on intensity alone, but on empathy, consistency, and a safe space to be truly seen and accepted.